Hey everyone, MLive's Nick Baumgardner here, back for another edition of Ask Nick, our weekly Michigan football mailbag here on MLive.com. A lot of questions this week revolved around the defense, specifically the defensive line, how Michigan fixes it. What do they do to get better? Last week was 300 plus yards, obviously, against Indiana on the ground. Jordan Howard ripped them up pretty good, which is never ideal. They were fortunate to win the football game. Jake Rudock dragged them across the finish line. Defensive line did not play well. Linebackers did not play well. Nobody tackled well. Nobody got off blocks. Nobody made plays. And now what? Well, you are not. You're going to have to do it or get creative in some way, shape, or form. What that means, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But the real thing here is that you can't replace Ryan Glasgow. I don't know if people still, even now, after seeing that game, if you totally understand what that means. Ryan Glasgow was Michigan's best defensive lineman, in my opinion. I think Wormley had some big plays earlier this year and was very consistent. Glasgow was playing at an all-Big Ten level and was just fantastic. I mean, he was the heartbeat, I think, of what was one of the top 2 or 3 rush defenses for the first part of, the first maybe 70% of the season. He was incredibly quick off the football, one of the strongest players on the team, always played technique, smart player, made plays, always around the football, rarely made mistakes. They don't have another guy on the team like him. They don't have another guy on the team waiting to come in. I know Harbaugh said it's possible Brian Monet comes back and plays, and whether or not that's real or not, I guess we'll have to see. Either way, Brian Monet hasn't played a snap all season. He's not coming in and filling on the same spot as Ryan Glasgow. So what do you do? Good question. I think the biggest answer is you're going to have to find a way with the lack of depth you have, because we've talked about depth a ton. They don't have much, and despite what maybe some people thought at the beginning of the year, there's just not a ton of it. There's not the level of drop off from starter to defensive line would be your starters and your guys right behind them. The guys behind that, it's a big gap. Tom Strobel gave it a go last week inside. That didn't work out. They didn't play Henry Poggi in there. I don't know if that's going to work out either. I think what ultimately your answer is going to have to be, you're going to have to look at this in kind of the long scheme of it. Willie Henry is going to have to play a lot of snaps. Maurice Hurst is going to have to play a lot of snaps, and Chris Wormley is going to have to play a lot of snaps. Hurst and Henry's going to have to play probably more than Hurst, I would think. Henry's going to have to be able to go a ton at tackle, with Matt Godin coming in and kind of subbing him in and helping him out, and also probably a ton at nose. And then Wormley's just going to, Wormley's a great player too, and I think Henry and Wormley are your 2 best left. Hurst has an ability to get off the football and to make some things happen on a pass rush, but as you saw last week, he was moved around pretty good in there by those guards from Indiana who were pretty good football players. So the answer isn't an easy one. It's just going to have to come from Will. I mean, you're going to have to get those 3 guys are going to have to be ready to play huge snap counts. And Matt Godin, who was hurt a couple weeks ago, is going to have to get better. Ultimately, where this test is going to come, I don't think it'll come this week. I think Penn State plays at a slow enough pace where the offensive line for Penn State's not any good. I think the biggest thing you can give yourself is if you can find a way to get yourself off the field early and not allow sustained drives, and maybe even recharge yourself through this week. If your offense can stay on the field long enough to kind of help your defense out, I think maybe then you give yourself a chance against Ohio State. But the biggest problem here is that Ohio State is going to run a lot of the exact same stuff that Indiana ran and had big success with, and they're going to do it with a better offensive line. And, well, Jordan Howard's pretty good. I think Ezekiel Elliott's better, but at the same time, another really good running back. So unless they can find another guy somewhere that can just stand in there and eat depth, I don't know. Maybe do you take an offensive lineman from the other side? Do you ask Grant Newsome to stand in there? I don't think that's going to do it. He's too bad. I don't know what you do. I think you roll with what you've got. You've got to find a way to get off blocks. You've got to find a way to reach down deep and do something. And those reserve guys, if Matt Godin's going to be in that rotation, he has to be better than he was last week. You got to get more from him. 2-way players. I know they're talking about Poggi. We'll see if that can do anything. But you're kind of stuck here. You have what you have, and there's no answer. There's no what can they do to bolster it. This is what they've got. Got to find a way. You got to find a way to gut this thing out over the last 2 weeks, because there is nobody coming in that's going to be able to replace Ryan Glasgow. It's just not going to happen. I think Willie Henry's a fantastic talent, had a great year. I think Chris Wormley's a fantastic talent, and he's had a great year. Those 2 guys are going to have to be dominant over the next 2 games if Michigan's going to get through this with 10 wins. And I mean dominant. They've got to really control their gaps and be able to stand up and be on the field for an extraordinary amount of time. That's just reality. That's what you're in. That's the spot you're in. There's no getting around it. There's no free agent signing. You're not bringing anybody off the waiver wire, and you ain't bringing anybody in that's as good as Ryan Glasgow. So it's a tough blow. It hurts, no question. But you've got to now lean on your 2 guys, Wormley and Willie Henry, and hope your linebackers can start getting off blocks and making a play. Part of that was an issue of they didn't have a chance because guys are getting free rushers and just slamming right into them. But at the same time, that front 7 has got to find a way. And maybe, and I'm not a defensive coordinator, I don't know. DJ Durkin maybe has to start getting creative here in how they call defenses, doing things a little bit differently. Not sure. They got to find a way. That's it. There's no real magic potion to this. There's no answer. I had someone ask, are we going to see the defense that existed 6 weeks ago when they had the 3 shutouts? I don't think you'll see that defense again this season because Ryan Glasgow was on that defense. He's not there anymore. Huge component of what Michigan's trying to do. A massive loss for them that they cannot replace. Only silver lining there is that Ryan Glasgow has another year. He'll be back. And I thought he was an All-Big Ten player this year. I think he'll be an All-Big Ten player as well next year. So that's your only silver lining. Other than that, you've got to find a way to get through it. There's no other way around it. So that'll do it for this week. For the rest of the questions, check out the post below. And I will see you on Saturday after Michigan Penn State. Until then, I'll talk to you guys later.